Alright, so when you will use the heavy liquids to do your separations of your conodonts to the light materials, you're going to take 2 coffee filters, fold it into quarters, first halves, and quarters. And on these you will mark your sample, and do this in pencil because the ink might dissolve, particularly when we use the acetone. So in pencil you'll write your sample number in either LF or HF, light fraction or heavy fraction. And you will arrange it, open it up so it can catch here, and you'll put your filter into the lower funnel. First you will put a clamp on these tubes, and these are all rotted, so we have to use new tubing material, but you'll clamp it up. You will pour a little bit of the heavy liquid, the TBE, into there. Make sure that it's not dripping, and once it can hold all the liquid, you should fill it up to about 2/3 of the way full of the funnel. And once it's filled with the heavy liquid, then you can dump in your sediment, and I don't dump in more than probably a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons worth of dried matter, dried greens. And then you should see some of the heavy stuff starting to fall out. And it'll fall through the tube, and it'll collect in here because this is clamped up. And then you can take the glass stir rod, and if you have 3 different samples, you should use 3 different stir rods to not cross-contaminate, but you can kind of stir it up, mix it up. What you're trying to do is to try and avoid the sediments from rafting, or the conodonts particularly, and have them try and settle down to the bottom. And I usually stir it several times, wait 5-10 minutes, and probably about 45 minutes is a good time to wait. Once you're satisfied and you've collected all you think you can, hopefully that there's a lot of liquid in between, and what you'll do is you'll quickly open up the clamp, you'll let the liquid rush down, it'll wash in your goodies into this filter, and before you start getting the other sediments, the lighter sediments in, you're going to close the clamp and let that settle. You'll collect all of that TBE that drains, and then you can put that back into your bottle, pass it through a filter, of course. And so you'll put this funnel with the filter back over your bottle, let that drain, and let that pass through there. When it's done draining with all the TBE, then you will give liberal amounts of acetone. You're going to try and wash everything. You're trying to get a rinse all of that TBE off your sediment, off the filter. Lots and lots of acetone, and let that all collect into this beaker. You can then take that filter and let it dry overnight, put it in another hood, and then that can be used and picked later. This liquid that drains, that's got some TBE and acetone, dump that into this beaker, and that will let slowly evaporate. The acetone will evaporate, but the TBE should still remain. Then with the remaining sediment, you're going to put in your other filter now, the one that is HF. You're going to replace that. You'll take that clamp off. You might have to stir that up a bit, but you want to have everything then washed through again and collect into that filter. Let all the TBE drain. When that's finished draining, you can put that back into the container, and then you're going to do the same process with the acetone. Just spray everything down with acetone and try and get as much of that TBE to dissolve and mix in with the acetone and collect. And once you've rinsed that many times with the acetone, that can go into another area to dry and be safe for later. Dump this back into the beaker, and then after a couple days, once you see there's a limestone rock in there, once you see the limestone starting to float, it means that there's all TBE remaining, and then that can eventually be dumped back in through the filter and back into the bottle.